The night was quiet. The gas station lights flickered in the dark, and the streets were almost empty. A cold wind blew as Aiden, a 16-year-old boy, stepped out of the store holding a bottle of water and a pack of gum. He wore a black hoodie, faded jeans, and sneakers covered in dust. His head was down. He didn't speak to anyone. He just wanted to walk home. But someone was watching. A police car parked nearby had seen him enter the store. Now, the officer inside stepped out and slowly walked toward him. "Hey," the officer shouted. "Hold up." Aiden turned, confused. "Yes, sir." The officer frowned. "What are you doing here this late?" Aiden looked around and pointed at the store. "Just bought something. I live 2 blocks away." The officer's hand rested on his belt. His eyes scanned Aiden from head to toe. "ID. I don't have it with me," Aiden replied calmly. "Of course you don't," the cop muttered. "What's in your pockets?" "Just gum." The officer didn't smile. He took a step closer. "Turn around. Hands behind your back." Aiden blinked. "What? Why?" "You match a description," the officer said. "Black hoodie, jeans, walking alone. You're in the wrong place at the wrong time." Aiden didn't move. He looked the officer straight in the eye and said one quiet sentence. "You don't want to do this. My dad's special forces." For a second, there was silence. Then the officer burst out laughing. "Special forces? What is this? A movie?" Aiden didn't laugh. He stayed still, calm, too calm. The officer didn't like that. "Turn around now." Click. The cold handcuffs closed around Aiden's wrists. He didn't resist. He didn't cry. He just lowered his voice and whispered something so soft. The officer barely heard it. "He's coming." Inside the patrol car, Aiden sat quietly. No panic, no anger, just silence. The officer radioed the station. "Bringing in one male, age 16. Says his dad's some kind of soldier. Might be mental." The reply came through with a laugh. "Roger that. We'll get him a juice box." Aiden looked out the window, his reflection clear against the glass. His eyes were sharp, focused. He whispered again, just to himself, "You made a mistake." At the station, the other officers looked up as the boy walked in. Another street kid, one of them asked. "Yeah, thinks he's something special," the arresting officer joked. "Said his dad's some army ghost or something." The others laughed. Aiden didn't say a word. He was placed in a holding cell. The bars closed behind him. One officer passed by and said with a smirk, "Your dad gonna fly in on a helicopter, kid." Aiden looked at him for a long second, then said calmly, "He's already on his way." Later that night, an older officer sitting at his desk decided to search the name Jack Maddox, the name Aiden gave as his father. Nothing came up. No home address. No military records. Only one line appeared. Classified. Clearance required. The officer's smile faded. He called over a friend. "Hey, can you check this again?" Same result. "Who did we just lock up?" Midnight. The station was quiet. Suddenly, the lights blinked. Just once. Then again. The camera screens flickered. The hallway lights dimmed. A cold wind pushed in through a door someone forgot to lock. And then, the phone rang. One of the officers picked it up. "Station 12. Officer Reed speaking." Silence. Then a voice. Deep, calm, controlled. "I know where my son is. Don't move him. Don't touch him. I'm 5 minutes away." Click. The line went dead. The officer stared at the phone, then slowly turned toward Aiden's cell. Aiden was sitting in the corner, eyes closed, breathing steady. He opened his eyes and whispered again, "He's coming." The small police station was quiet, except for the soft humming of machines and the occasional footsteps of tired officers walking the halls. Inside the holding cell, Aiden sat on a cold bench. His hands were still cuffed in front of him. His head was lowered, but his mind was alert. He wasn't scared. He was waiting. Across the room, Officer Daniels, the one who brought Aiden in, leaned on a desk, chuckling. Kid said his dad's special forces. Thinks we're in a movie or something. Another officer, Martinez, sipped coffee and laughed. These kids play too many video games. But Sergeant Keller, the oldest officer in the station, didn't laugh. He stared at the name written in the file, Jack Maddox. That name felt familiar, but he couldn't place it. "Let me try something," Keller said, and opened the old terminal. He typed Jack Maddox into the system. Access denied. He tried again with higher clearance. Classified. Top level clearance required. Keller froze. That wasn't normal. Most retired soldiers had public records, medals, ranks, reports. This one had nothing. Just one word. Classified. In the cell, Aiden sat still. He heard the officers laughing outside. Heard them joking about his hoodie, his military dad, his story. But Aiden didn't speak, because his dad had taught him something important. When people laugh at you, don't argue. Wait. Let truth speak for you. Suddenly, the lights flickered again. Just once. Daniels looked up. Weird. The security monitors blinked. Static flashed across the screens. Then they returned to normal. Martinez tapped the screen. Might be a storm. But Keller wasn't so sure. He walked over to Aiden's cell. "You said your dad's special forces," he said. Aiden looked up. His voice was calm. "Yes, sir." "What's his name?" "Jack Maddox." Keller's face changed. His voice dropped. "There used to be a story, years ago," he muttered. "A ghost soldier. People said he could walk into a war zone and vanish. No trail, no record, no weakness, but nobody ever proved he existed." Aiden simply nodded. "He exists," he said. "He's my father." At that moment, the station phone rang. Ring, ring, ring. No one moved to answer it. Finally, Martinez picked it up. "Station 12. A low, calm voice came through. "Second warning. Step away from my son. You have 4 minutes left." Martinez froze. "Who is this?" The line went dead. He turned to the others. "Same guy as before," he whispered. Keller walked over, pale. That voice, it sounded trained, like someone used to giving orders. Daniels forced a laugh. "You guys are freaking out over nothing." But deep down, even he started to feel cold sweat on his neck. Back in the cell, Aiden smiled, just slightly. He knew his dad. His dad didn't make threats. He made promises. 3 minutes later, the front gate camera glitched again. This time, it didn't come back on. "Camera 1's down," said the rookie at the desk. Then camera 2 died. Then 3. Daniels walked to the window and looked out into the parking lot. "Nothing there," he said. But he was wrong. Out there, in the shadows, someone moved. Fast. Silent. Invisible. One of the backup officers walked outside to check. He didn't even reach the gate. In 10 seconds, he came back in, breathless, stunned. "I didn't see him," he said. "But something's out there." Daniels stood up. Martinez reached for his radio. Aiden stood. He walked to the front of his cell, eyes locked on the hallway. Keller watched him. "You knew this was going to happen." Aiden nodded. "He trained me to expect it." "To expect what?" Aiden looked him in the eyes. "Rescue. On his terms." Suddenly, the front doors of the station creaked. All heads turned. The air felt heavy. No footsteps, no talking. But everyone felt it. Someone, had arrived. Back in the cell, Aiden whispered the words again. Not loud. Just enough for himself. "He's coming." The night outside the station was silent. but it didn't feel peaceful. There was a pressure in the air, like something heavy was about to fall. Inside, the officers were restless. Some tried to act calm, sipping coffee and joking, but their eyes kept going to the door and to the boy in the cell. Aiden stood quietly behind the bars, his back straight, his hands relaxed. He wasn't angry. He wasn't scared. He was waiting. "All right, enough of this ghost story," Officer Daniels muttered. "I'm going to check the doors." He grabbed a flashlight and walked toward the main entrance. As soon as his hand touched the doorknob, the lights went out. Every bulb in the station went black. Monitors went dead. Radios cut off. Phones stopped working. Silence. Then, boom. A loud sound echoed outside the station, like something hitting the ground. Heavy, sharp. Martinez cursed under his breath. "Generator. I checked it an hour ago. It was fine," Keller said. Another loud noise, this time closer, like metal being bent or broken. Daniels flicked on his flashlight. The beam shook in his hands. In the cell, Aiden closed his eyes. He remembered his dad's voice. "When fear enters the room, breathe slower than everyone else." He took a deep breath. Outside, something moved. Fast, silent. Too fast for any camera. Too quiet for any guard. A shadow passed the first window. No footsteps. No voice. Just motion, like smoke sliding through air. The emergency lights flickered on. Red light filled the hallway. Dim, pulsing like a heartbeat. Daniels looked around. "Where's the backup?" "Radio's dead," Keller said. "So does the landline." A young rookie asked, "Are we under attack?" No one answered. Then, bang. A side door was forced open. Someone had entered. No alarm went off. No camera caught it. And still, no one saw him. Keller opened the weapon locker and tossed pistols to the others. Daniel stood in the hallway, flashlight in one hand, gun in the other. He whispered, "This isn't a rescue. It's a ghost operation." Suddenly, a scream echoed from the back hallway. One officer had gone to check the breaker box. Now his voice rang out, but not in pain, in shock. "I didn't even see him. He was just there." Martinez ran toward the noise. He turned the corner and stopped. The breaker box was open, wires cut with clean, perfect precision. No signs of force. No damage. It was like someone who knew the system had shut it down. "Who the hell is this guy?" Martinez whispered. At the front of the station, Aiden stood by the bars, his eyes watching the hallway. He saw shadows move. He heard the softest sound, cloth brushing against the air. Then, a shape appeared at the far end of the corridor. A tall figure in black, wearing no uniform, no badge, just a calm walk and cold eyes. Officer Daniels raised his weapon. "Stop right there." The figure didn't stop. Daniels fired once, a warning shot. But before the sound even echoed, the man vanished. Daniels turned to yell, but the man was already behind him. He twisted Daniels' arm gently, took his gun, and set it aside. Didn't break a bone, didn't throw a punch, just moved. Fast, silent, professional. Daniels collapsed in shock, unharmed. Martinez rushed forward, weapon raised. The man looked at him. No emotion, just presence. Martinez froze. He didn't know why, but he lowered his gun. Keller stepped back. He knew now. He whispered to himself, "That's not a soldier. That's a legend." The man walked straight to Aiden's cell. He stopped just outside. His hand pressed a small code on the lock, one that only he knew. The bars slid open with a soft click. Aiden looked up. His face broke into a quiet smile. "Hi, Dad." Jack Maddox looked at his son with steady eyes. "Are you okay?" Aiden nodded. "Yes, sir." Jack turned. The officers didn't move. No one dared speak, because deep down, they all knew. This was no ordinary man. This was someone who didn't need to shout to control a room. He didn't need permission or a warrant. He was the kind of man who finished things and then disappeared. Keller, still standing with his hands slightly raised, found the courage to whisper, "Jack Maddox, you're real." Jack didn't answer. He didn't need to. His silence said everything. Silence filled the station. Not the kind of silence that feels calm. The kind that wraps around you, tight and cold, like a storm about to break. Jack Maddox stood tall near the cell where his son, Aiden, had just been freed. His black boots made no sound. His eyes were sharp, scanning every corner of the room, every detail. The officers around him felt something they couldn't explain. Not fear exactly. It was respect, mixed with something deeper, something old. Instinct. Sergeant Keller took a small step forward. "Sir, I need to know who you are. For the record." Jack slowly turned his head. His voice was calm, low, steady. "I'm the father of the boy you locked up." Keller nodded once. "And before that?" Jack paused. No record, no name, just work that got done. The other officers looked at each other, confused, nervous. Daniels, still recovering from being disarmed without even being touched, stepped back. "I don't care who he is," he muttered. "He broke into a station. That's a federal crime." Jack looked at him, not angry, not scared, just disappointed. "You handcuffed my son without cause, and laughed at a warning you should have listened to." Daniels opened his mouth to reply, but stopped, because Jack had taken a single step forward, and somehow that was enough to shut him up. Keller raised his hands. "Look, no one's hurt. Let's just talk." Jack gave a small nod. "I'm only here for my son." Aiden stepped beside his father now. He looked stronger, even taller, standing next to him. Martinez cleared his throat. He didn't break any laws. He was just in the wrong place. Jack's eyes met his. "And you made him feel like a criminal." Nobody spoke. Finally, Keller said, "We'll release him. No charges. We'll clear it." Jack looked around the room. Then his eyes settled on the security system, now frozen. "You'll also delete every camera angle from tonight. No copies, no reports." Keller hesitated. "Sir, that's not." Jack took out a small black device from his jacket. He placed it on the front desk. A green light blinked once, then turned red. "It's already done." Martinez whispered. He wiped the whole system. Daniels clenched his jaw. "Who is this guy?" Keller looked down at the name in the logbook, then said softly, more to himself than anyone else, "Jack Maddox. I heard that name once, in a story told in whispers. A man who never existed, but ended wars." Jack turned to Aiden. "Let's go." But before they could leave, a voice rang out. A young rookie, standing near the back, raised his voice. "Wait." Jack stopped. The rookie looked nervous but determined. I want to ask something." Jack turned. His eyes met the rookie's. The rookie swallowed hard. "What's it like to be someone nobody believes in until it's too late?" There was silence. Even Aiden looked surprised by the question. Jack walked slowly up to the rookie, not to intimidate, but to answer with truth. He placed a hand on the young man's shoulder and said softly, "It's lonely, but that's how legends are made." The rookie nodded. His hands shook a little, but he smiled. "Thank you, sir." Jack looked back at Keller. "Take care of your team, and listen next time, even if the voice is young." With that, he and Aiden walked out the front door. Outside, the air was cold. The night had cleared. Jack looked up at the sky. "You all right?" he asked Aiden. Aiden nodded. "I knew you'd come." Jack gave a rare smile. "Always." Back inside, The officers stood frozen for a few minutes. No one spoke. Keller finally broke the silence. "I'm wiping that log. Right now." Martinez looked at him. "We can't report this, can we?" Keller shook his head. "Who would believe us?" Daniel sat down slowly, still staring at the door. "They'll think we imagined it." Keller looked him dead in the eye. "We didn't imagine a damn thing. We saw the storm walk in and walk out with his son. That night, nothing was filed. No paperwork. No charges. Just silence. Because some stories are too powerful to tell the wrong way." Before the gas station. Before the cell. Before the moment Aiden said, "My dad's special forces," there were years of silence and training. Aiden was just 6 years old the first time he saw his father disappear. Not leave. Not walk away. Disappear. One moment Jack Maddox was standing in the backyard. The next gone. Hidden in the trees. Blended into the wind. Aiden ran around, laughing, thinking it was a game. But then he heard his dad's voice, soft and close, behind him. "If you want to survive, you don't chase the wind. You become it." Most kids learned how to ride bikes. Aiden learned how to track footprints in mud. Most kids played video games. Aiden learned how to take apart a flashlight, a lock, a radio, and put it back together in the dark. His bedtime stories were different too. No dragons. No magic. Just truths. Never raise your voice if your silence can win. If your enemy's bigger, use your brain first, fists second. Courage isn't loud, it's calm. When he turned 10, Jack built a course in the woods behind their house. Ropes, tires, walls, wires. He called it the Quiet Path. And every Saturday morning, before sunrise, Aiden would be out there, barefoot, quiet, focused. "Why barefoot?" he once asked. Jack answered, "To remind you, comfort is not your goal. Clarity is." Aiden hated it sometimes. The cold, the bruises, the early mornings. The way other kids at school called him weird, quiet, even soft. But every time he wanted to quit, Jack asked him just one question. "When the world doesn't believe in you, will you still believe in yourself?" By age 12, Aiden could sit still in one spot for 2 hours without blinking much. He could tell which direction the wind came from just by listening to the trees. He could disarm a trap Jack had set in the woods using only a stick and a string. But most of all, he had learned how to control his fear. Once, Jack took him to a cliff by the ocean. They stood at the edge, wind howling. Jack pointed down. "You see those rocks? If you fell, it would hurt. You might even break." Aiden nodded slowly. Jack looked him in the eyes. "Fear is like those rocks. It's real. But if you respect it and stay sharp, it won't stop you from climbing higher." They didn't talk much in public. Jack always kept his life quiet. He never told anyone about his past. Not even Aiden. Not fully. But Aiden saw the scars. The alert eyes. The way Jack always sat facing the door in restaurants. He knew his father had done things. Deep things. Things people didn't speak about. And because of that, Aiden listened. Every word. Every lesson. At age 14, Aiden asked a question. "Dad, why are you training me like this?" Jack didn't answer right away. He looked out the window. Then finally said, "Because one day someone will doubt you, laugh at you, push you, and I won't be there. But this training will." When the arrest happened, Aiden hadn't fought the cop, hadn't raised his voice, hadn't panicked. Because deep down, he remembered Jack's voice. "If they don't believe you, let your calm be louder than their noise." Now, back in the present, Aiden sat beside his father in the car as they drove through the quiet night. He looked over. "Why didn't you just call a lawyer?" he asked. Jack smirked slightly. "Because I'm not a lawyer. And neither are the people who took you." Aiden laughed a little. then turned serious. "Thanks for coming." Jack nodded. "You stood your ground. That's why I'm proud." The road ahead was long and dark, but neither of them felt lost, because a boy who had trained with a ghost was now becoming one too. The night after the rescue was quiet. Too quiet. Aiden sat on the couch, a warm drink in his hands, staring at the dark TV screen. Jack stood by the window, still, watching, listening. He hadn't spoken in almost an hour, not because he was tired, but because he knew something was wrong. He finally turned to Aiden. "We're not alone." Aiden frowned. "You mean someone followed us?" Jack didn't answer. He just walked across the room and picked up a small black case. Inside was something Aiden had never seen before, a thin metal device shaped like a pen. Jack clicked the top once. The room flickered. Every phone, every smart speaker, every Wi-Fi signal went dead. Aiden's eyes widened. "What is that?" Jack looked him in the eye. "A silence field. Nobody hears us now. Not even them." Them. That one word hit Aiden hard. He had never heard fear in his father's voice. Not once. But tonight, he heard something close. Not fear. Warning. Jack sat down across from Aiden. "When I broke into that station, I used old codes. Dead ones. No trace." Aiden nodded. "You said no one would find out." Jack looked down. "They shouldn't have. But someone did." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small envelope. No return address. No stamp. Just black paper and a folded note inside. Aiden leaned in. His heart beat faster as Jack read the words out loud. "The quiet one walks again. The boy has his shadow now. We see you. We remember." And then written in red ink at the bottom, "Phase 2 begins." Aiden looked up. "What does it mean?" Jack didn't blink. "It means someone out there knows I broke the rules." Aiden stood now, pacing. "But I thought you were off the grid. No records. No history." Jack nodded. "I was." He paused. "But there are people, very few, who were trained to watch the shadows. Not just fight wars, but clean them up." Aiden asked slowly, "Are they enemies?" Jack's jaw tightened. "They're not friends." He stood, walked over to the wall, and pushed aside a bookshelf. Behind it, a steel safe. He opened it and pulled out a thick folder, dusty and sealed with a red string. He placed it on the table between them. Aiden stared. "What is that?" Jack took a deep breath. "Everything I never told you. Everything I ran from. And everything that's coming." Inside the folder were photos. Old black and white pictures of soldiers in the snow. Letters with code names and numbers. Maps marked with red lines. But one photo made Aiden freeze. A picture of a man, face covered, standing next to Jack, years ago. He pointed at it. "Who's that?" Jack's voice dropped. "The only man who ever outsmarted me in the field. He vanished 10 years ago. And now, I think he's back." That night, Jack locked every door, checked every window, ran a quiet scan across the house for trackers. He found one. Small, hidden inside a gift box Aiden had received on his birthday, a week ago. Aiden's chest tightened. "They've been watching us." Jack crushed the tracker in his hand. "Yes, but now they've shown their hand." Just before sunrise, Jack sat down again. He pulled out a blank notepad and started writing something. Aiden leaned over. "What are you doing?" Jack didn't look up. "Leaving a trail for someone I trust. If something happens to me, you'll know where to go." Aiden stared at him. For the first time, he truly saw the weight on his father's shoulders. He wasn't just a warrior. He was a man who had made choices, and now those choices were coming back. For him. And for his son. Aiden whispered, "Do you regret any of it?" Jack looked at him. "No, because I still have you." Suddenly, The silence field device blinked red. It was being scanned. Tracked. Aiden jumped up. "They're here." Jack stood calmly. "No, not yet." He walked to the door, opened it slowly, and found a new envelope on the ground. Same black paper. No footprints. No sound. Just one message. "Run." Aiden stared at the black envelope. His hands were cold. His mind raced. Only one word was written inside. "Run." And suddenly, the silence of the morning felt loud, like something terrible was crawling just out of sight. Jack didn't speak. He didn't panic. He moved fast, controlled. He went to the hallway, opened a hidden panel behind a picture frame, and took out a metal box. Inside were 2 phones, 2 watches, a stack of cash, and a silver key. Aiden stood frozen. "Where are we going?" Jack answered while packing the bag. "We're not going anywhere anyone can follow." 10 minutes later, they were in the truck. Jack drove fast, but stayed off main roads. He spoke quietly. "They sent the second envelope. That means phase 2 started. That means we're targets." Aiden's voice shook. "Targets? Why? What did you do?" Jack didn't look away from the road. "I knew something. Something they buried. Years ago, I left without saying a word. Now they think I told someone. They think you know it too." They stopped once, at an old fuel station far from the highway. Jack wore a hoodie low over his face. Aiden kept his head down. The clerk barely looked at them. But as they walked back out to the truck, a man in a black jacket stepped out of a silver car nearby. No smile, no emotion, just eyes, locked on Jack. Jack didn't hesitate. He turned to Aiden. "Get in. Fast." They jumped in. The black jacket man moved closer, but didn't chase. He just stood there, watching. Jack peeled off down a dirt road. Aiden looked back through the window. He didn't even blink. Jack's knuckles were tight on the steering wheel. "That's because he's not here to stop us. He's here to let me know we're being followed." For the next few hours, they drove through forest roads, back trails, and old service paths. No GPS, no cell signal, just memory. Finally, they stopped at an old cabin, nearly hidden in the trees. Aiden looked around. "Where are we?" Jack said simply, "A place they don't know." Inside, the cabin was quiet but ready. Canned food, batteries, an old generator, maps on the wall, marked in red ink. This wasn't a hiding place. This was a base. Aiden looked at the gear. "How long have you been planning this?" Jack finally met his son's eyes. "Since the day I walked away from them." That night, Aiden couldn't sleep. He kept replaying everything in his head. The arrest, the warning, the envelopes, and now, the man in the black jacket. He sat by the window, looking out into the trees, listening for anything. Suddenly, a soft peep. The watch Jack gave him blinked red, then green, then red again. He ran to wake his dad. Jack was already awake. He held a small screen, checking the signal. "Someone tripped the outer line," he whispered. Aiden froze. "They found us." Jack nodded slowly, then whispered, "Get your boots. No time." They stepped outside. The cold air bit through their clothes. The forest was silent. Too silent. Jack moved like a ghost through the trees, Aiden just behind. They reached a small ridge and crouched low. Then they saw it. 2 figures moving slowly through the woods. Dark clothes. Heavy boots. Not police. Not local. Hunters. Jack tapped Aiden's shoulder. "Watch this." He took out a small mirror and angled it toward the path behind the men. Another shadow moved behind them. Not with them. Following. Jack whispered, "They're not working together. Someone else is out there. And they don't know it either." Suddenly, a crack of movement in the trees. The two men froze. One reached for his weapon, but before he could raise it, he was gone, dragged into the trees. Silent. Fast. The second man turned and ran, but another shadow moved, smooth, fast, and blocked his path. A quiet voice spoke from the trees. "Tell Maddox I remember." And then nothing. Just trees. Just night. Jack and Aiden watched from the ridge, unmoving. Aiden whispered, "Who was that?" Jack didn't answer right away. His voice came low, like a name pulled from the past. Ghost Zero. Aiden turned, confused. "I thought that was just a story." Jack's face was pale. "So did I." They backed away slowly and returned to the cabin. Jack didn't sit down. He went to the wall, found a photo with no label, and stared at it. Aiden watched him. "You know who he is?" Jack nodded. "He was the last man I trained with. They sent him to kill me, and he refused. He disappeared after that." Aiden's voice was low. "Why would he come now?" Jack looked out the window. "Because he knows something I don't. And next time, he won't be a shadow. He'll be standing right in front of us." Outside, the woods were quiet again. But something was out there, watching, waiting, and closing in. The next morning was cold. Fog wrapped around the cabin like a silent warning. Jack stood at the window, fully dressed, eyes locked on the woods. He hadn't slept. Neither had Aiden. But today, something felt different. He could feel it in the air. Today, the truth would finally come. Jack laid out the weapons on the table. Old tools. Silent tools. Not for war, for survival. Aiden sat across from him, trying to stay calm. But questions burned in his chest. "Dad, who is Ghost Zero?" Jack paused for a long time. Then he looked Aiden in the eyes. "His real name is Cole Maddox. He was my best friend. Years ago, they were soldiers in the same unit. Special forces. Elite. Deadly. But when the government started hiding missions that left innocent people hurt, Cole wanted to speak out. Jack didn't. He believed in silence. Obedience. That silence broke their friendship. Then one day, Cole vanished. Everyone said he was dead. But Jack knew better. He disappeared because he didn't want to be part of the lie anymore. Now he's back, which means something's coming, something big. Suddenly, the sound of tires crunching gravel. Aiden rushed to the window. One black car, then another. Silent. No sirens. No lights. Jack's voice was calm. "They found us." He handed Aiden a small flash drive. "This has everything. The missions, the names, the truth. If I don't make it out, you run. You upload it. The world will know." The door creaked. Aiden stood still, heart racing. Then, a knock. Not a loud one. A soft, polite knock. Jack opened it slowly. And there he was. Cole Maddox. Older, worn, but alive. His face was calm. His hands were empty. But his eyes were filled with fire. Jack didn't move. He didn't smile. Neither did Cole. They just stood there. Two ghosts from the same past. Finally, Cole spoke. "You always said if I knocked, you'd listen." Jack nodded once. "I'm listening." They sat at the table. Aiden sat quietly, watching every word. Cole looked at him. "You've grown." Aiden frowned. "You know me." Cole nodded. "I held you when you were a baby, before your father disappeared." The room was heavy with memory. Cole pulled out a single photo, folded and faded. 3 men in uniform. Jack, Cole, and someone else. Cole pointed. "This man, Marcus Gray, he was our commander. He betrayed us both. Sold mission intel to outsiders. Got civilians killed. I tried to stop him, but the agency protected him. So I vanished. went after him alone. Jack clenched his jaw. And now, Cole looked serious. Now he runs a private unit, and he sent those men after you. Because he thinks you have the files that prove everything. Jack opened the flash drive. Held it up. I do. Cole nodded slowly. Then we burn him. Together. Suddenly, gunfire in the distance. The cabin shook. Aiden jumped. They found us. Jack grabbed the drive. Cole stood. Go out the back. I'll hold them. Jack hesitated. No. We do this together. Outside, 4 armed men moved through the trees. Black uniforms. Silent steps. But Jack and Cole moved faster. One by one, they took them down, using only what they had to. No killing. Just disabling. Aiden watched from the ridge, clutching the drive. Then, a final shout. And silence. Cole returned first, blood on his shirt but alive. Jack followed. They had won. For now. That night, they sat by the fire. The flash drive was connected to a small satellite modem. Jack hit upload. Aiden watched the progress bar fill. Cole turned to him. What you've done will change things, but it comes with a cost. Aiden nodded. I'm not afraid anymore. When the upload finished, Jack turned to Cole. So, what now? Cole smiled. Now the world knows. And now, we rest. The next morning, Aiden woke to find Cole gone. No note. No sound. Just one message carved into the table. Some shadows walk alone. Jack read it and smiled. Then he looked at his son. Let's go home. The war was over, but the truth had just begun. And Aiden was no longer just a boy in trouble. He was the son of a legend, and now a protector of the truth.